Right now, in a quiet office in London, the most successful marketing empire in human history is being sold for parts. In July of 2026, De Beers cut its diamond prices again. Its parent company has written down the value of the business by $6.8 billion in 3 years. Revenue has been cut in half. The company that once controlled nearly every diamond on Earth is losing $500 million a year, and its owner is desperately searching for a buyer. But this is not really a story about a company going broke. It is a story about something much stranger. Because De Beers did not just sell diamonds, it invented a tradition so convincing that your grandparents believed it was ancient. And to understand why it is collapsing now, you have to understand how it was built. Our story starts with a problem. A very unusual problem. For most of history, diamonds actually were rare. They came from a few riverbeds in India and Brazil, and only kings and emperors ever touched them. Then, in 1870, enormous diamond deposits were discovered in South Africa. Suddenly, diamonds were coming out of the ground by the ton. The men financing the mines understood something terrifying. Diamonds had no real use and no real scarcity anymore. Their entire value rested on a feeling. If the market was ever flooded, that feeling would evaporate, and diamonds would become just another shiny stone. So the mines merged into a single company, De Beers, and that company spent the next century controlling exactly how many diamonds the world was allowed to see. Controlling supply solved half the problem. The other half was harder. Someone had to make millions of ordinary people want a small, useless crystal badly enough to pay several months of wages for it. In 1938, a 29-year-old named Harry Oppenheimer walked into the offices of an American advertising agency called N.W. Ayer. At the time, only about 1 in 10 American brides received a diamond engagement ring. Diamond prices had been sliding for years. Young men saw no reason to buy one. The agency came back with an idea that would quietly reshape the private lives of hundreds of millions of people. They would not advertise a product. They would manufacture a custom. The diamond would become the only acceptable physical form of love itself, not a purchase, a rite of passage. They loaned diamonds to Hollywood stars. They planted stories in magazines about the size of the stones celebrities gave their fiancés. They sent lecturers into high schools to teach teenage girls about diamond engagement rings before anyone had proposed to them. And they invented a rule out of thin air, the idea that a proper ring should cost a certain number of months of a man's salary. That rule appears in no religion and no ancient custom. It was written in a marketing plan. Then, in 1947, a young copywriter named Francis Gerety was finishing an ad late one night and scribbled 4 words at the bottom of the page. "A diamond is forever." Those 4 words did something brilliant and slightly sinister. They told you a diamond is eternal love, so you must buy one. And they whispered something else, that a diamond is too meaningful to ever sell, which meant the millions of diamonds sitting in dresser drawers would never flow back into the market to compete with new ones. Decades later, an advertising magazine named it the greatest slogan of the 20th century. The numbers tell you how well it worked. 1 in 10 brides in 1938, 1 in 3 by 1950, 8 in 10 by the 1990s. Within a single human lifetime, an advertising campaign had turned itself into an ancient tradition. Ask anyone in that era how long people had been proposing with diamonds, and they would guess centuries. But if you still doubt that a tradition can simply be manufactured, what happened next is the closest thing to a controlled experiment ever run on an entire country. In the 1960s, De Beers looked at Japan. Japan had no diamond customs at all. Importing diamonds had not even been legal there until 1959. Marriages were traditionally arranged by families, sealed with a ceremonial exchange of gifts, and nowhere in that ceremony was there a ring of any kind. In 1967, De Beers hired the agency J. Walter Thompson and began running ads across Japan. The campaign did not even pretend the diamond was a Japanese tradition. Instead, it sold the diamond as a badge of the modern Western lifestyle, photographed on elegant women who looked like they had stepped out of a European film. When the campaign began, Fewer than 5% of Japanese brides received a diamond ring. 14 years later, it was over 60%, and Japan had become the second largest diamond market on Earth. And in Japan, the salary rule was set at 3 months instead of 2. A tradition that did not exist when the Beatles broke up was, within one generation, something grandmothers simply assumed had always been there. That is the true product De Beers sold, not stones, certainty. The certainty that this is simply what one does, so what could possibly kill a machine like that? The answer was sitting in a laboratory. Scientists had known for decades how to grow real diamonds, atom by atom, in a machine, not fakes, chemically and physically identical to mined stones. For years, they were too expensive to matter. Then, the technology got better, and the price began to fall. And fall. And fall. Today, a lab-grown diamond costs roughly 1/10 of its mined twin. A 1-carat stone that would have cost thousands can now be had for the price of a nice dinner jacket with a grading certificate to match. And younger buyers, the exact people the engagement machine depends on, started asking a dangerous question. If the two stones are identical, what exactly was I paying for? The honest answer was the story. And stories, it turns out, are not forever. De Beers tried everything. It launched its own cheap lab-grown brand to protect the mined business, then shut it down in 2025. It slashed production by 1/3. It quietly sold discounted stones on the side while pretending official prices were holding. By 2026, even that theater collapsed, and the company openly cut prices at sale after sale. Its parent company, Anglo-American, took loss after loss, wrote down billions, and put the whole thing up for sale. The empire that once decided what love costs is now worth less than half of what it was 4 years ago, and it is struggling to find a buyer. Here is the strange part. The slogan was true. A diamond really is forever. The stone in your grandmother's ring will outlast every building on your street. It was the tradition that turned out to be temporary. A custom born in a 1938 marketing memo is dying within a single century, which by the standards of real traditions is barely an eye blink. And that leaves one uncomfortable question hanging in the air. The diamond ring was exposed because we happen to have the paper trail, the agency memos, the campaign budgets, the before and after numbers. Most invented traditions never get caught. So the next time someone tells you that this is how it has always been done, whether it is about weddings or holidays or the food on your table, it is worth asking quietly. Always? Or just longer than anyone in the room can remember? The world is stranger than you think, and some of its oldest traditions are younger than your refrigerator.